This week on Fantasy Fight League for UFC 274, three people are fighting for two championship belts. Will Trevor Whitman get away with it again? I'm Casey, and with me is, as always,
Taylor. Taylor.
right there. All right, that's enough chit-chat. Let's get into it. First off, we have a recap from UFC 273.
Oof. That bad, huh?
We had some out there bets. We'll just say that. But to get into
At least you went positive.
correct, I did go positive. To get into it, Taylor went 2 for 9 in his picks with a grand total of losing $823.
Oh.
I went 3 for 5 with my picks, and I won $448 for a grand total of $1,448. Therefore, I will take the 273 win. So that puts us at 1-1 now.
You're the MMA prophet for UFC 273.
I guess. I think the issue was that with the first Fight League betting, we both went pretty conservative, and then I think you edged me out by like $50 or something, and you only ended up going like plus 500 and change. Versus this last one, looking at the max possible winnings, I was at like 3,500, and then you were at 10,000.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to get out there, get some spicy bets going. I'm just trying to do it with the fans.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like when it just feels so good when you hit that just out there bet, and you're like, oh yeah. Like I'll tell you, when I had my my $200 on Aljamain Sterling go through for plus 330, I was like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. Yeah. All right. So 273. What was your favorite fight of the night?
Fight of the night for 273. Shit, man. I don't know that I have a fight of the night, honestly.
What did you enjoy the most?
Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev had to be the fight of the night, actually. I mean, that's obviously a fight of the year contender. They both threw it all in there. I just don't think, honestly, any of the other main card fights were performance of the night, maybe, from Volkanovski.
Oh yeah, he looked fantastic.
But the rest of the main card was kind of poopy.
That's unfortunately true, and that is absolutely correct. Like, even just remembering the build up to the fight, just all this hype surrounding Chimaev, and then just the buzz around Burns accepting the fight, so that he just jumps everybody and goes to fight the number 2, and then we just get
it's a great fight.
We just get a 3-round barn burner. That was a good fight, and like Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, he was like, if I have to tell you what fight of the night was, you guys should not be here. It's like,
are we talking about the individual fights, or are we just talking about this in general?
Let's see. What was the first one?
I'll take that as we don't have slides for it. All right, so let me just get this off here. I don't feel bad about my bets. I actually am of the opinion that Vince Pichel won his fight versus Mark Madsen.
That was a decision,
I certainly don't think that Mark Madsen went 30-27, which was on 2 of the judges' scorecards, which is insane. By the way, did you know that he's an Olympian?
Is he the Olympian?
He's the Olympian. in a fucking
field of Olympians
league with tons of Olympians.
They're everywhere.
It's one of my main complaints that I think MMA judges overvalue wrestling and undervalue like real submission attempts.
Well,
I think that Vince Pichel actually did a lot of damage from the bottom. He clearly won the stand-up, and yeah, like Mark Madsen like wrestled him down there and held him down there, but he didn't hold him down and do damage or hold him down and threaten submissions. He kind of just held him down, and I really don't give that any, points when I'm trying to score a round.
That's fair.
I don't feel bad at all about my pick. I strongly believe that Vince Pichel.
Still on that point, though, I got something for
won
you.
That fight.
So recently, we also had the fight night with Bilal Muhammad, and that was another similar complaint I think I heard widely about that fight. Was that Bilal is a wrestler who takes people down and then does nothing with the position. He doesn't do damage and he doesn't go for submission attempts. He just like holds you there. And then in the grading criteria for the judges is damage first, and then I guess control time. Is that how that works?
So it goes. The first thing is damage trumps all. So basically, you're looking at strikes and the cumulative damage and impact that they had on the fight.
Correct.
And then only if damage is equal, do you go down to the next thing, which is effective grappling? And effective grappling requires basically that you're gonna, get positions to do stuff with, which is to say, get damage. So it's not effective grappling if you just grapple them down and then don't do anything with it. Or you're really threatening submissions, right? You're not just like half-assed going for it. You're like, there's a real chance that like you might submit them.
Okay.
So that's, listen, if damage isn't equal, you just don't count the rest of it.
That's fair. I think so. Obviously, what is effective grappling? That is the question, and it seems like a very vague statement. And I understand how judges can kind of like warp that in their head. And obviously, I think they have a very different view of the fight than we have of the fight. I mean, we got some great multi-million-dollar camera angles versus they're sitting ringside, so understandable. But also, I think like if you do have someone that does wrestle but doesn't really go for the submission attempts or damage, they're kind of just holding you down, which means there's just not much content in that fight for the judges to grade off of.
You're not contributing to ending the
Correct.
fight is my problem.
But what I'm saying is that if you fight like that, there's 3-round fight, 15 minutes of possible judgeable criteria. If you just wrestle without doing damage and without going for submission attempts, you're reducing the amount of gradable material there is. Theoretically, according to how it should be judged. Right?
This is true.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe it forces... I mean, given that theory, Vince Pichel should have probably gotten a lot more credit for the stand-up work that he did. So, all right, I hear you.
Yeah, I even think that he did damage off the bottom. I think, I mean, I have to watch it again. I'm not going to count every single strike, but I just didn't see any real damage coming from Mark Madsen on top, and I did see strikes coming from Vince Pichel on the bottom, and that's enough to tell me, like, listen, like, Mark Madsen just didn't do anything. He's the Olympian because he's still friggin' trying to win by Olympic wrestling rules, and they keep letting him get away with it.
The old Greco-Roman wrestling style, huh? All right, that's...
Yeah, I'm not mad about Tisha Torres versus Mackenzie Dern. I mean, it was a split decision. I'm on the side of Tisha Torres for that one, which I did bet on, but I also think she won.
We both bet Torres on that one. I think we both bet
Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Like, all right, maybe you can say that Aljamain, with his body triangles or whatever, but for all the Sterling fanboys out there who are like, oh, Sterling's so good, like, yeah, this is the fight, and they're like making this the fight that they're gonna point to like really try and get their friends to watch Aljamain Sterling. It's like, bro, the only thing you're gonna do is get people to stop watching MMA. Okay, that's what's gonna happen if they watch that fight. So I don't really think it's a win, In
that context, yes. So this fight, basically the entire question of the fight comes down to how you score that first round, because rounds 2 and 3, Sterling got Yan down and was just dominant and just got a body lock both times, did some damage on top, and just didn't let Yan do anything. And then rounds 4 and 5, Yan had great rounds. I think he even dropped Sterling in the 4th.
Yeah, that's once again like these like rounds that you edge out because just no activity goes on.
Yeah, so it's 2-2, which means round 1 is the deciding factor. And I think the fighting styles don't... If you looked at the stats show Aljamain Sterling had more significant strikes and just strikes in general than Yan. However, if you watch the tape, when Yan hits, he connects. Versus Sterling will touch you up and maybe get a nice finish going there. But Yan just watching that fight again, Yan hits hard, man.
Dude, Jan's one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in the fucking sport.
What was the quote from last time? He's the greatest pound-for-pound fighter, and he doesn't need to cheat, but he still chooses to.
Yeah, he didn't in this one,
See what fighting fair gets him? Fighting fair gets him nowhere. Look at that, huh?
Sterling was shooting in there. I mean, there's like shooting in, and then there's like asking to be kneed in the head.
That was really also hilarious watching this last fight, because there were so many moments when Sterling was on the ground and then Yan was above him again, both hands on his shoulders, just like, oh, I could knee this guy so hard right now, and everyone just watching is kind of just like butt puckering, just like, what is he gonna do?
Just like yeah, like the classic like switch knee as they like go for the takedown, but which is a great technique. But the problem is, like, oh, what if he had one hand on the ground? Then it's like, oh, now we're going to get disqualified, and Taylor's going to make, like, $10,000 off of his deja vu bet.
Look,
Can't let that
all
happen.
I'm saying is there is a reason that was, like, the number 1 or 2 most popular bet on DraftKings for that card was the deja vu.
Anyway,
right,
yeah,
going.
and then obviously Alexander Volkanovski, I wasn't going to put money on a minus, like, 800 Volkanovski to win.
He looked like a minus 800 in that fight, too.
He did, absolutely. Oh my God, I was hoping. I was like, maybe Korean Zombie like has a fresh spring in his step. He's like got a second wind, and nah.
Here's the thing: Korean Zombie is a good.
Volkanovski looked amazing.
Zombie's a good fighter. He really is.
He was just too slow, man.
He was just too slow to step behind, and in that fight, it honestly just looked like Volk is just in a class of his own. Just.
Compared to Korean Zombie, yeah. I mean, like you put him back against Max Holloway.
That's a good fight.
Like you're probably gonna have a close fight again.
I'd see that for a third time.
This is one of those fights. It's just where the matchup, stylistically, like Volk's just too fast for Korean Zombie, too clean, too defensive when he throws, and there's just no openings. Total shutout. It's no dig on Korean Zombie. It's just the way that it worked out. Volk's really good, and it happened to be a great stylistic matchup for him. So yeah, that minus 900 over the hell it was, probably deserved. Probably the correct correct odds.
Oh,
maybe more, honestly, after watching it.
Yeah. All right, that's enough about 273. Let's talk about 274. And first, the rules, as always: 5 fights on the main card, $1,000 to play with. We have to bet a minimum of $100 per fight. Prop bets and oddballs are allowed, and we are pulling the odds from DraftKings Sportbook. Today is Friday, the 6th of May. Fights are tomorrow. Let's do it. First up, we got Cowboy Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon. Taylor, what do you think?
What a friggin' legendary matchup. Can you believe these two haven't fought each other? I mean, both of these guys have fought everyone at the lightweight division.
Over 40 fights each.
Yeah, so Joe Lauzon's been in the UFC since 2006, fighting at lightweight the entire time. Cowboy's been in since 2011, and yeah, unbelievable. That being said, they're both definitely, some of the greats. Maybe not top of the division, but some of the legends, really. Both probably deserve a spot.
Cowboy's one of the most winning.
Criteria is, but
Cowboy's one of the most
Cowboy
winningest fighters there
Hall
is.
Of Fame.
So
yeah, great. It's gonna be a fun fight, I'm sure. That being said, they're both kind of over the hill, as it were.
Yeah.
This is a great fight for both of them to go out on, maybe.
Looking at Cowboy's record, it just doesn't feel good because he's at like 5 losses and 1 no contest in the last 6 fights. And it just hurts to see.
Both of them have not won since 2019. The difference being that Cowboy has fought
6 times since 2019.
6 times since his last loss, and Joe Lauzon just hasn't fought since 2019.
Yeah, Joe Lauzon's last fight I think was a win though back in 2019 before he took a bit of a hiatus
against Jonathan Pierce.
Yeah.
All
right, let's get into
fun fight.
Absolutely, let's get into the bets. All right, I have $100 on Cowboy to win at minus 180, and I got $50 for him to win by decision at plus 400.
Sure.
I think Cowboy's going to take this one. Obviously, he is the favorite, and then I think he's gonna take. It's going to go the distance. I was looking at Lauzon, and he doesn't get submitted, and I don't think he really gets finished too much. And then looking at how Cowboy fights, definitely submission artist. So submission artist against a guy that doesn't get submitted. Sounds like decision to me. I don't really. This is one of my mid-tier confidence levels, but I'm looking at $155 and $250 for payout on my side. What do you got?
Oh, I feel pretty confident that there's going to be a finish. I think that both of them have had their chins worn down pretty heavily. I mean, Cowboy's got 54 fights. Joe Lauzon's got 43 fights professionally. Both of them, have been knocked out in their last few fights. I think both of them are still capable of finishing people. It's just that, with the people they were fighting, they just happen to be the first ones to get finished.
That's fair.
I really see one of them getting a finish here. I do kind of lean a little bit towards Lauzon, actually. I think that, he hasn't taken quite as much damage on his chin as Cowboy has. So I'm just leaning a little bit. And that's why instead of just taking the fight to not go the distance bet, I put $100 each on each of them to get a finish. So that if Cowboy wins, I'll make like $5. And if Lauzon wins, I'll make like 200 off this.
True. There you go. There you go. All right, next one.
Man, Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Ovince St. Preux.
This, just like
2022.
Yeah, just like the last fight, this is definitely some of like the legends of the sport still fighting today. I think that's one of the big draws about this card. Is you get to see some big names from the olden days still going at it.
Yeah, and going out. I think this is good matchmaking. Rua's 40, St. Preux 39. This is actually a rematch, if you didn't notice.
I did not notice that.
They fought in 2014. St. Preux knocked out Shogun Rua. That was after Shogun Rua had lost the belt to John Jones back in 2011.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess rematch question time is, have the fighters changed since then, and what's different? It's been 8 years.
So looking into it, so that was 2014 for Shogun. Since then, he has had 8 professional fights since he was knocked out. He's gone, 5-2-1 in those fights, losing to Paul Craig and Anthony Smith, and a draw against Paul Craig. Got a win over Big Nog back in 2020. That's pretty cool. Win over Corey Anderson back in 2018. And then I guess his first win over Big Nog back in 2015. Ovince St. Preux, on the other hand, since that fight, has had 18 professional fights.
Okay, a lot busier.
So a lot busier. Now, he has been knocked out in his past couple fights against Tanner Boser and Jamal Hill. You know what? Sometimes you're over the hill, the new blood's coming in, but I do think that, for St. Preux fighting back in mid-2021, Mauricio Shogun Rua hasn't fought since late 2020. I think there's going to be a little bit less ring rust on him. I don't know if you get ring rust once you've been doing it this long, but
True.
If you do, then I think there's going to be a little more ring rust on Rua, so I'm kind of leaning towards St. Preux for that reason. And because of the outcome of the first matchup, and St. Preux staying busier, staying more active, I don't see a reason why Shogun should have overtaken St. Preux in that time. And St. Preux's a little bit younger, too. So.
Fair enough. All right, well, let's get into the bets. For this one, I got $100 on Shogun to win, and I have $50 on him to win in a round 3 finish.
Okay.
So,
I respect that.
Yeah, I just feel like it's time for Shogun to get this win. And I mean, looking at these records, it's light heavyweight fight as well. I think it's going to be a finish, and I think it's going to be late in round 3. Looking at Shogun's record, I think the last 3 KOs or TKOs he had were all in round 3. And then the next one before that was a round 1, like minute 30 finish. So I feel pretty good about around the round 3 finish, and it's only $50, so whatever. Over to you.
I kind of see a first or second round finish by St. Preux is kind of what I'm expecting.
Okay.
Both great, but I think St. Preux is just still a beater. Still could knock people out. Not the Shogun can.
Oh, they both can.
But I think he's gonna get him in the first couple rounds.
All right, fair enough. You're looking at $650 possible, and I'm looking at up to a little over $1,000 on this one fight. All right, next one.
Oh, now we're getting there.
This is where the card gets real exciting.
This is a spicy match.
It is. We got Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. So Michael Chandler coming off of a loss to Justin Gaethje, also on the card, and then who was the last person that Tony fought?
Beneil Dariush.
Tony Ferguson also lost to Justin Gaethje as well.
Yep.
Some might peg that Gaethje versus Ferguson fight as the day that Tony got a little too much CTE.
Yeah. So actually, they're both Chandler's coming off 2 straight losses to Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira. Tony's coming off 3 straight losses to Beneil Dariush, and then also Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. Gaethje finished Tony, went the distance with Chandler, and then Charlie Olives finished Michael Chandler and went the distance with Tony. So just based on, the rundown with those two, you might say there's not too much, but I will say that in both of those 2 fights, they've got common opponents very recently, 2 of them actually, and I'd say that, Michael Chandler looked good in both of those fights.
Exactly.
A clear win for Justin Gaethje against Michael Chandler.
Still a good showing.
It's still a good showing, and obviously Charles Oliveira got the finish against Michael Chandler, but Michael Chandler looked great in that fight, man. Sometimes you just get caught. Meanwhile, Tony Ferguson, watching that fight with him against Justin Gaethje back a few years ago.
That was when he was on top, untouchable. I think he was on a 9 or 10 fight win streak at the time, I want to say.
That he was on a 12 fight win streak.
There you go.
Yeah, unbelievable in the lightweight division. But the amount of damage that he took for 5 straight rounds from Justin Gaethje was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like Tony Ferguson died that night, man.
Absolutely.
And then watching him come back against Charles Oliveira in the fight after that, he didn't look the same. And he looks real good at the press conference. He's saying I've been more focused. I've changed up my camp a little bit. Went back to my roots. He's got his college wrestling coach coming to the fight. He's gonna be in his corner. He's sort of a little bit more focused, a little bit more methodical. Doesn't have 7 different coaches telling different things.
There you go.
Hopefully, but everyone says that when they're over their hill, but not a lot of people come back, from that championship level once they go over that dip.
True.
The difference being that Michael Chandler in his past couple fights has looked championship level.
Correct.
And Tony just hasn't, and I don't see Tony seeing a rebound. I think he's just taken too much damage. I think he's too old. I'd love to be proven wrong and see some vintage Tony on Saturday night, but based on everything that we've seen in the past few fights, you got to give this one to Chandler.
I guess, although, 2 notes. So hoping against seeing old Tony. I was checking out the weigh-in photos. Both of these guys, I think, look the best on the card. They are both chiseled out of stone. And then, secondly, point I want to bring up is, yes, the last fights for them, similar opponents, similar outcomes as in losses. However, they're very different fights. So, Justin and Tony went 5 rounds.
Yep.
That's when Justin finished him in the 5th and Herb called it off. Chandler and Gaethje went 3 rounds, but it was just haymakers round 1 through round 3. And just the photos and videos that Chandler posted after the fight, the man's face it was beat. It was just a beat piece of meat. It was bloody and all hell, but he still put up a good fight.
And I went back and watched that, and if you look at Justin's face at the end of that,
fine.
Justin, he looked fine. He had a little bit of damage, but it really wasn't that big a deal.
Chandler's other fight, Olivera. Michael Chandler was 5 seconds away from being the champion.
Oh, absolutely.
He really was.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And then he just got in the second round. That's how it works. But he just looks so good, and you just got to remember that. And then Tony, watching his last few fights, I think it was the Dariush fight. I just remember it looked like it was 3 rounds of Dariush just walking him down and just having his way with Tony, and Tony just holding on because he is inhuman and indestructible. I think at one point there was an arm bar that everyone was like, "Oh, Tony's arm is broken," and he's like, "No, I'm good to go." It's just like, oh my god, you could see it just getting hyperextended, and he's just like,
You pulled one of the classic blunders, and a theme for this card, actually, if you will, which is that you have remembered an event, but you have forgotten the person who the event occurred with. That was the Oliveira fight, man. Olivera looked like he was gonna snap Tony's arm in half.
Oh, that's what it was.
The problem is Olivera is just so goddamn forgettable that you can't remember anything he does.
Well, we will get to that point later, because I'm sure we both have a lot to say about that one. But yeah, I think the thing for me is Tony is indestructible. Even if he's on the decline, nobody's really finished him other than Gaethje. And since then, that's it. All right, on to the bets.
Yeah, so sounds like we're on the same page. Yeah. Last thing I will say is that I want to believe El Kukui comes back.
Oh, absolutely.
You're right. Tony did look great on the scales, and going back and looking at him in his last 3 fights, his physique looks totally different, man. It's crazy. I mean, he looks so flat in that Justin Gaethje fight, and so just based on his physique coming back, I mean, hey, there's a chance, but that's not enough for me to bet off of.
All right, fair enough. So, let's see the bets. So this one, I got $100 on Chandler to win by decision. And you got $200 for Chandler to win by KO. So originally, my bet was going to be your bet. But then, I remembered this is going to be a 3-round fight, and it's Tony Ferguson. I think Chandler is absolutely going to win. What was it?
I actually have, you missed mine up a little bit. I actually have Chandler by KO, TKO, DQ, or decision.
Or decision, okay.
Yeah, I did a double chance to hedge my bets.
Got it, that's why it's minus 330. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I just didn't want to lose all my money if Chandler does get the knockout, which is certainly possible.
Fair. It's absolutely possible. I just think with 3 rounds, I'm thinking and I'm remembering the Justin Gaethje fight where just Tony can just sit in there for 5 rounds and just get beat, but still stay in there and stay active.
Yeah, Chandler by decision. That's a great bet.
I think it's a good payout for the wager. 2 plus 240. I like it. That's why I took it.
Yeah, that's a good number. I just wanted to hold on to my money.
Fair enough. All right, next fight. Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. Another rematch.
Doug Rose.
This is for a championship fight for the ladies. What's Rose's win streak at right now? Or how many? Is this her 3rd title defense? 3rd or
4th? This is her 2nd title defense.
Second title defense.
In this holding of the title.
This holding. Okay. So,
I believe.
Let's talk about their initial meeting. Take it away.
Right. So, let's see. They first fought...
I want to say it was an Ultimate Fighter Championship.
For the Ultimate Fighter season finale. That particular Ultimate Fighter season was basically to crown the inaugural champion of the women's strawweight division. So it came down to these two. Interestingly, that was actually Rose's 4th professional fight.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I think it was Carla Esparza's 10th or 12th or something like that. Yeah, it was her 12th. So very early in Rose Namajunas' career. But
outcome of the fight.
She was looking good. Yeah, she was looking good, but she got submit by rear naked choke in round 3.
Yep.
So the question is, what's changed? What's different? How do you think this one's going to go?
I think they are both very different fighters now than they were then. Like you said, that was Rose's 4th professional fight. Since then, she got the belt, lost the belt, got it back, and I think she made one of the greatest business decisions she could ever do, which is go train with Trevor Whitman.
She's been training with Trevor Whitman the whole time,
she has?
hasn't she?
I don't know.
I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know. I see that man in the corner, and I see his unimpressed face no matter how many times his athletes just win and beat people down, and I'm like, ugh. That's a man you don't want to mess with.
Seems like prior to the Ultimate Fighter, she was training out of Minnesota.
Okay.
So I'm not sure at what point she went and began training with Trevor Whitman.
Fair enough. I'll tell you, that Rocky Mountain altitude does things for fighters.
Yeah, it will. It will.
Right. I will admit, I don't know as much about Carla Esparza, so you got anything?
She's good. I mean, so sort of after she won the belt, right, she went and lost it to Joanna. And then after that, I mean, she's been fighting good people in the strawweight division. but she hasn't been fighting at the championship level. Whereas Rose Namajunas has been exclusively fighting at the championship level, basically like the whole goddamn time.
Yeah.
Well, not the whole goddamn time, but her past like 6 fights. I mean, Michelle Waterson's not championship level.
Obviously, the UFC as a
Paige Van Zandt or Angela Hill.
The UFC as a whole is the higher level of competition, but even within that, there's levels to it. And I just think the caliber of people that Rose has been fighting is it's top notch. Like,
yep, it's the top few. Whereas Carla Esparza has been, fighting and doing all right against, the low to mid end of the division. Rose Namajunas in her past 6 fights has been fighting the top of the division.
Yeah, based on
and mostly winning.
Exactly. So based on all that, let's see what we got. I got $200 on Rose to win. Or this is a minus 210, excuse me. I have it as a plus 210. So possible 295, and then you have a different wager. So explain this one.
All right, so I don't know who's gonna win on this one. So there's a couple thoughts here, right? One is that if you look at Rose's last 6 fights, they're all a fight and then an immediate rematch. So she knocks out Joanna, then goes to a hard-fought unanimous decision with Joanna. She's doing well against Jessica Andrade until she gets knocked out by that slam, and then she goes to a hard-fought decision against Jessica Andrade. She knocks out Zhang Weili in the first, and then she goes to a hard-fought split decision against Zhang Weili. So her rematch, like, she doesn't tend to do better in the rematches. I know she beat Jessica Andrade the second time, but I think she was doing better in the first fight until she got slammed. And so, like, I have to look at, the whole of the fight, how is she doing? So it seems like she does worse in rematches typically. So that would lead me to believe that Carla Esparza should win, right? Now, that being said, Rose is training with Trevor, and I don't like betting against Trevor. That's a bad move. So I was looking at it, and, both of them have a lot of split decisions. In 2 of her 3 rematches, Rose goes to a split decision. Carla Esparza has like 6 split decisions on her record. 2 of her last 3 fights were actually split decisions wins. So at plus 400, I was like, yeah, I'll put $100 on that. Like, give me a $500 payout. I think there's a real chance. I don't know that it's the most likely thing to happen, but I think that it's worth the plus 400 money line in order to put $100 on a split majority decision. I think that's very possible. I think it should be like a plus 200, honestly.
That makes sense.
So that's why I put that one.
All right, fair enough. On to the main event of the evening. We got Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje.
It's ironic that their weight here is 155 for Charles, 155.6 for Justin Gaethje. I don't know how they decide what that's going to be down there. But
True. All right, so let's get this out of the way first. News breaking this week. Charles Oliveira missed weight.
By 0.5 pounds, man.
Brutal, but, I mean...
You got to draw the line somewhere. Yeah, everyone out there who's like, oh, man, it was 0.5 pounds, like, yeah, well, like, there's a line, and the line is 155, and you don't get your, pound allowance when you're fighting for the title. Like, if you're a champion, like, look at the last, Alexander Volkanovski and Korean Zombie both came in half a pound under. Justin Gaethje weighed in, like, first thing this morning at 155. If he was a pound over, a lot of people were talking about, like, the scales in the back were off or whatever. Listen, Justin Gaethje weighed in first thing. If he was a pound over, he would have had all day to go and fix his weight. Charles Oliveira weighs in an hour before the end, before the end of the time to weigh in, and he's a half pound over, and he couldn't lose the last half a pound. So it's like, listen, if you're that close, then be prepared to come in at like 153, 154, man. Like, sorry, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that is how it is. So, to update the fight sheet, Justin Gaethje will be fighting the current belt holder, Ye Olde Scale, the great equalizer.
Man, undefeated, undisputed.
Undefeated, never lost a round. Never.
Yeah, listen, the Scale beat Charles. I think the Scale gets the belt throw the scale in there and let Justin and the scale not like duke it out. See who gets the real belt.
Exactly. That's how it works. I mean, it's a tough fight. The scale's record speaks for itself.
More dominant than Khabib.
Correct.
Actually, Khabib was the one guy to solve the scale problem. Khabib just didn't show up. Yeah, everyone's talking about Khabib, Khabib absolutely, they were absolutely someone's giving him a little boost so that he can make that last pound or whatever. But on multiple occasions, he just was like, nope, I'm just not fighting, which is what Charles should have done, man. If you can't make weight, just don't show up.
True. Okay, so let's have the conversation now. So I originally was talking to you before we were recording, and I was like, yeah, we got Olivera versus Gaethje, and you're like, who's that? Olivera? Gaethje? No. Who's that first guy, Casey? Olivera? Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, you were talking about that. Who did was it, like you said, you forgot that armbar that Olivera did. We were talking about some other fight earlier. It might have been the Tony one again. You were like,
I think it was.
Yeah, Tony lost to Gaethje and Dariush, and he fought somebody else, but I can't remember. And it was like, oh, Charles Oliveira. It's like, man, there's no reason on paper why I shouldn't like the guy. He's doing it a long time. He's a crisp striker. He's got great technique.
Massive win streak too.
He's a submission artist. He's a finisher. On paper, I should love everything about this guy. But for whatever inexplicable reason, I just couldn't care less about it.
I have legitimately forgotten on many occasions that he is a fighter and he holds the belt. And again, I should have no reason not to like the guy because Israel Adesanya is my favorite fighter, and the reason I like him the most is because watching him fight is just it's so technical and high level, and I love it. He's in a division where there's killers and just these big dudes, and he's this tall, skinny guy, and he just picks people apart, and he does have knockout power, as is shown. So I look at him and I'm like, yeah, great fighter. And I look at Olivera and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, to all the Olivera fanboys out there, one, keep seething over him missing weight. If you're looking for unbiased commentary, go watch fucking Weasel or some shit. This isn't the podcast for you. But on the other hand, don't be like, oh, why don't you like Charles? Listen, I don't even dislike him. I'm just, I can't even find a reason to dislike him. I'm just entirely indifferent about him.
It's not that we don't like him.
I'm sorry.
It's just we like everyone else so much more.
I understand all. Yeah, I understand all your reasoning of why I should like him, and I totally agree with it. But when I look at him, I just go I'd kind of rather see literally anyone else in the top 10 have the belt.
Yeah. I rewatched the Poirier-Oliveira fight. I actually remember that one happened this time. Haha.
Oh, yeah.
And there is that one pivotal moment where Oliveira advances a position with having his fingers deep inside Poirier's gloves. And even the commentary team pointed it out right away. And they were not happy about it.
About that.
And I just think rewatching that and just watching it happen and then him proceed to just bash on Poirier for the next 4 minutes of that second round, and then to just finish him in round 3, I was just like,
It was one very fast moment that I don't think he was intentionally, thinking aha, I'm gonna put my fingers in here. But it did have an enormous impact on the fight.
I don't want to. I mean, I should fault the guy for technically cheating, but it happens. You're literally fighting a man in a cage half naked. You're gonna grab something. It just happened. He grabbed the one thing that you're not allowed to grab onto, other than the fence.
Yeah, and he didn't grab it for long, but he grabbed it for long enough, man. If it hadn't happened, then Dustin Poirier would have been out of there. He wouldn't have ended up on the ground. He wouldn't have ended up getting smothered for a whole round.
Yeah, so
it would have been a different fight. So, and I'm not saying Charles Oliveira wouldn't have won anyway.
Oh yeah,
totally possible that he would have, but that was definitely something that I remember very clearly and being that I don't know, for me that was a big stain on that fight for Charles.
Yeah, so the reason I don't fault him too much for that one is because that was step 1 of 2 that led to Poirier's demise for round 2. Step 1 was glove grab, advanced position. Step 2 was Poirier tries to roll out of it for not really a good reason and just gives up an armbar submission attempt, and then from there he made his spot worse, is what Poirier did. And then at that point he's like, all right, fuck. Now we just need to not get submitted, and we just need to make it in round 3. And that was the strategy, and it was the plan, and that's how the fight was probably going to go anyways. So, I mean, again, can't really blame there.
I don't fault Charles Oliveira for it, but it wasn't.
However, on the other hand, we have Justin, the human highlight Gaethje, who is, I think he's your favorite fighter.
My boy. Active fighter?
Favorite active fighter?
Maybe. Yeah, dude. I love Justin Gaethje. So, I was listening to a thing for all you old school YouTubers out there in the fitness community. I listened to Frank Yang talk about Kai Green, who was a Mr. Olympia competitor several years ago. And he was saying, like, I think Kai Green's just too smart to ever win Mr. Olympia. He's too philosophical. He spends his time focusing on things that aren't bodybuilding. Now, Justin Gaethje does not spend his time or brain power on things that are not fighting.
You mean
that dude just listens to what Trevor Whitman tells him, and he goes and does it. He's got a nutritionist. He eats what the nutritionist makes. He goes to a sports strength and conditioning coach, and he just shuts the fuck up and does what he says. And I think there's something beautiful in just being this absolute, this just piece of marble to be molded by, probably the best coach in the world in Trevor Whitman.
Correct.
That has really made him impressive. And then he's out there. He's like, listen, we're gonna have an exciting fight one way or the other. And man, there's never been a boring Justin Gaethje fight.
Correct. 100% correct. So you are the reason I started watching MMA and UFC with you. And Justin Gaethje was the fighter you pointed me to be like, if you don't get excited from this, I don't know what you get excited about. And let me tell you, I really like this guy. I like him a lot, and I've loved watching the evolution of him as a fighter to just this hyper-lethal machine that he is right now.
Oh, yeah. And he finishes people with leg kicks.
Sure does.
It's the most amazing thing.
Sure does.
Who knows? Maybe he'll finish Charles Oliveira by leg kicks. That'd be super fun.
Maybe.
That'd be very entertaining.
Which leads us to the bets. We both have Justin Gaethje to win by knockout.
That's right. That's right. I took all my extra money and I said, time to dump it into Justin Gaethje winning. Listen, all you out there saying like, oh, Charles has got more ways to win. His submission threat, if he takes Justin Gaethje's back, it's over. If he takes him down, it's over. Yeah, he's got, honestly, really crisp striking and, blah, blah, blah. Might even be able to outstrike Gaethje. Listen, you're 100% right. But fuck you. I'm never putting any money on Charles Oliveira. I'm putting $300 on my boy to win by knockout.
I mean, I can't bet on Charles Oliveira because if I bet on him and he wins, I'm gonna forget.
You're gonna forget about the bet.
I bet on him.
Yeah, you're just gonna lose all that money.
I have done that with a Vegas slip, by the way. I think I bet on the Mariners during a bachelor trip, and then they won, and I just forgot to go collect, and I still have the stub. So maybe if we ever go back to Vegas, I'll go get my money. It was at the Excalibur.
Wonder if it expires. I don't
Probably. Yeah, we were staying at the Flamingo, and we
dude.
went down there for a day, and I was just like, oh, it's so far. And then I proceed to go all the way up and down the Strip, and then to Old Town as well. It's like, yeah, I got no reason.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, just in case you to win by knockout, super reasonable.
True. All right, I will
especially at a plus 175.
Absolutely. You kidding me? That's positive money right there. How is that? How is that the dog? Well, also, isn't Justin the dog in this fight?
Yeah, he was. He actually changed to I think he's a 120 or 140 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Although that was changing on account of the whole Charles Oliveira missing weight thing, so it might be a little bit closer by the time we get there.
All right, I will attempt to present us as a reasonable and somewhat unbiased podcast for our many
biased as hell.
Million fans. All right, so here's the critique of Justin Gaethje. I went really deep before the Khabib fight, and I found Justin Gaethje's old college wrestling videos. In particular, I think there was a tournament at the Air Force Academy. Similar to how he fights in MMA. Great offense, a little bit lacking in the defense category. Especially whenever he got taken down, he stayed down, is basically what it was. And then if he got on the offensive, he took his opponents down, did well, scored points, and then I think I saw him pin one guy. And then the Khabib fight happened, and he went night-night, as Khabib said. So obviously he is vulnerable to grappling. He might just be vulnerable to the greatest grappler of all time, but we're going to find out if he's vulnerable to possibly the second, with Charles Oliveira. I feel like a lot of people are looking at this fight as a very similar fight to the Oliveira-Poirier fight, and that's why the odds reflect it. Poirier, big puncher, hits hard, decent ground game, not his focus. Gaethje hits harder than anybody in that division, I want to say.
Harder than anyone pound for pound in the UFC, I think is what he's measured in.
I don't know. Francis Ngannou might give him a run for his money.
Pound for pound. For pound. He's like half the size of Francis.
This is also true. Fair enough. So, that said, the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling is his weakness. Oliveira had a good showing against Poirier. Oliveira always has a good showing when it comes to whenever he wins by submission. So, that's where it's at. I could see Justin getting submitted, although I want to believe that he has learned from Khabib, and he's gotten even better, and that Oliveira's face is not as tough as he thinks it is. And I think
you know damn well Justin Gaethje's got no jiu-jitsu.
This is a fact. But Justin Gaethje has hands, and I think Justin Gaethje is going to connect with Oliveira and give him the Tony Ferguson treatment.
Yeah, if Oliveira gets around and gets his back like he did with Dustin Poirier, yeah, sure, it's absolutely over. But if Oliveira gets cracked by one overhand right or a left hook or an uppercut or a couple hard leg kicks, it's also all over.
Exactly.
So I tell you what, it's not going the distance. What are the numbers on that one? Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje, fight to go the distance. Yes is a plus 300 bet. Honestly, that
is a theme for this whole card.
That's awful.
Is that 4 out of the 5 fights are expected to not go the distance. The only one that is the Rose fight.
I would never bet plus 300 for a fight to go the distance. That is a terrible bet. Minus 450 for it won't go the distance. That's a fantastic bet, man. Go ahead and put your life savings on that one. You know.
That's fair.
This is not financial advice.
Again, yeah, this is not financial advice. This is two shitters on the internet talking about fake money they're betting.
But if it was financial advice, which it's not, you should be comfortable putting your entire life savings on the minus 450. No.
Who was the really good female fighter that just lost the belt?
Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, Amanda Nunes. There was in the post-fight show they had a betting report, and they're like, well, somebody just lost betting $300,000 on Amanda Nunes, even though she was the minus 1,000 to win. And then everyone on the cast is just like dying laughing. It's like, I mean, that's what we thought too, but it's fighting, so anything can happen.
Dude, sometimes the bookies gotta cry, you know? It happens once every few years.
Losing $300,000 betting on Amanda Nunes. That's funny.
Listen, if you're betting $300,000 on Amanda Nunes, you've got $300,000 to lose.
This is true. This is true.
But honestly, you know, minus 450 for this fight to go the distance or to not go the distance, that's insane. It should be like minus like 10,000.
Yeah.
You're absolutely like.
That's how these two.
I'm not saying it's impossible. But I'm saying it's at least a minus 1,000 for this to not go the distance. I mean, like, I just don't see a scenario in which they're gonna fucking trade blows for 5 rounds. It's just not gonna happen.
One of them will break the other. They're going to do it in different ways, but one of them will break the other.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you've been looking at my bets, you'll notice that I am $200 short. That is because I have chosen to take a special parlay that I wish I took on the UFC 272 card called the Trevor Whitman Special. This man, I do not want to bet against this man, so I will bet with this man. I got $200 for Rose and Justin to win. Total.
That's a good bet.
Yeah, DraftKings has it as a plus 224, which I thought that's stupid. So I put $200 on it, and I said, yes, I will take your money. Thank you very much.
Plus 224.
Yep.
Huh? That's probably reasonable. I think these are both close fights, but yeah, you're right. Like it's tough to bet against Trevor right now.
Correct.
Back when Justin Gaethje was a madman, who had no interest in winning or becoming the champion and just wanted to go out there and throw hands, it'd be fine to bet against him. But in the modern era of I want to be a champion Gaethje, man, it's real tough to bet against Trevor.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad we put in Trevor's serious habit of being caught just grinning, just cheek to cheek while watching his fighters get the shit beat out of them. Like it's never when they're the ones winning. Like it's when like Justin Gaethje is getting knocked out by Eddie Alvarez, and you just see that giant grin on Trevor Whitman's face. He's the freaking sadist, man.
One of my favorite moments though is the Kamaru Usman fights. I think it was the Street Judas, Jorge Masvidal. Flash in a bottle. Lightning in a bottle. Excuse me. Whatever.
Yep.
Flash in the pan. That's the expression. Yeah. Usman just starches Masvidal with that spectacular just right hand. And then they have the reaction cam on Trevor Whitman. I think it's the bottom right picture. Everyone is just like losing their mind, and Trevor's like, yep, that was going to happen all along.
Just stone cold when his fighters win, just grinning all the way across his face when his fighters are getting their ass beat.
Correct. He's like, how do I make this better? I can't.
Absolute madman.
There you go. That's what I'm...
You see, top row is Trevor Whitman seeing room for improvement. Bottom row is Trevor Whitman thinking that he's got to figure out a way to improve his fighters now.
Yep, exactly. All right. Let's total it up. I've got a few of those really high spec ones that are probably not going to hit. So my max possible winnings is 3,483. Taylor has a max possible of 2,635. Basically, that difference right there is the difference of me trying to pick that Shogun Rua is going to finish in round 3, because it's like $950.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Who knows, man?
Yeah. Basically, the entire point of me doing the Trevor Whitman parlay was I looked at Justin Gaethje's to win, and it was like minus 330, and I was like, well, we got to do something about that. And I was like, what if I put these two together?
Just to win? Justin Gaethje's to win is like plus 120, dude.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
Michael Chandler's minus 330.
That's what it was. Thank you.
To win by KO, TKO, DQ, or decision.
That's the one.
It might also be just to win in general, actually.
See, I already forgot that Gaethje was the underdog. Oops. Sorry, Charles.
It'd be like that.
Good job, Brain. Way to remember Charles Olivera as the champ. Well, he's actually not the champ anymore. He got stripped.
He's not the champ. It's the scale.
The old scale! Look at him! Look at that man!
Undefeated, undisputed, never lost a round. Correct.
Alright, so, how do we feel about the card as a whole? I'm very excited for this one. I think this is gonna be some good fights. Top to bottom.
Man, I'm on the same track. I think it's gonna be a great time.
I want to see Cowboy get that win. I want to see Shogun get that win. I want to hopefully not watch the ultimate demise of Tony Ferguson. I want to believe that El Kukui can still hang in there.
I want to see good close fights all across the card, which I think is very possible. I don't want to see anyone just get starched.
Except Charles Oliveira.
That would be except maybe Charles Oliveira. That would be my ideal outcome from all this.
Correct. Absolutely. I want to see some peak Justin Gaethje though. Like I want to see the him versus Tony Ferguson fight 2.0.
You want to see the Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson rematch?
No, what I mean is I want to see that level of fighting, and that level of just like skill, and I think that was a big point where Justin Gaethje really showed that that was the I want to be the champion.
He's a new Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, that was the I want to be the champion moment, because he fought smart.
Yeah.
And he he listened to Trevor Whitman. I love listening to their exchanges between rounds, where Trevor's like, "You gotta pull it back. Stop trying to murder him." And he's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got it." It's like
Yeah,
you said,
man,
he just
he's-
shuts up and he just does what the coach says.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be great.
Excellent. All right. Last moment to shout anything out, or any last quips before we go?
Do you know that Mark Madsen's an Olympian?
I did not. Thank you for that.
Oh, now you're informed.
Oh, God. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. This is the Ready to Rumble podcast / Fantasy Fight League. I'm Casey,
Yep, that's
and
right.
with me,
No, I'm Taylor.
we will
I'm Taylor.
catch you guys
Yeah.
after the show. Bye.